Welcome to another edition of Our City. A few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week. On March 28th at 5:30, I'm going to attend a Women's History Month program. It's going to be at the First Republic restaurant located at 1204 West Grand Street. And on Friday, March 29th at 10:30 in the morning, I'm going to read to children at the Leaguers on East Broad Street. It's a recognition of Read Across America Day. And as all of you know, during the month of March, we also celebrate Dr. Seuss's birthday, which was on March 2nd. So I spent a lot of time this month reading to young people, and it's probably one of the most enjoyable aspects of the job. And so on Read Across America Day, the Head Start program known as the Leaguers here in the city of Elizabeth, I'm going to read to children at 10:30 in the morning. So if you have any information or you want information concerning these events, please call our Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. So a few things going around the city of Elizabeth this week, and now I'm pleased to be joined by Mr. Leiva, the CEO and the broker of Culturist Street and an Instructor. Louis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you having me.
So we did this on your show a while ago.
Yeah, so we are in opposite positions a couple weeks ago, and everyone tells me how impressed they were with the video. You did a great job. You're a professional at this, I'm sure by now.
Well, you're really good at this. I mean, because you can flatter your guests, Louis. That's why it works so well.
Well, I have an easy subject.
Oh, see, I told you
I'm doing it right now.
So, Louis, tell me about yourself first before we get going.
Okay, well, I grew up in Elizabeth, so Elizabeth is my backyard. I always tell everyone I know Elizabeth like the back of my hand. I know the streets by street, by house number. So Elizabeth is a very nostalgic place for me. I grew up here and lived here, and I invest here now, and I spend a lot of time here. So I'm very, if you must know, I'm very passionate about the city. So as a youngster growing up here, obviously, there's a lot of different things you could focus your attention on, and I was always really big on sports. So I used to play basketball all the time at Brophy Field. I used to play street hockey with the kids from St. Peter and Paul when St. Peter Paul was open. So I was always very passionate about that, and I don't really see that a lot nowadays. Like, you don't really see the kids outside interacting as much. And, that's something that is unfortunate. But there are some people who are starting to try to make things change. And one of those people is Pastor Carlos Cedeno. He has started working with the kids on the BBA basketball league. So for as long as I can remember, we've been sponsors, and we've been more involved the last year or so. We're going to do that again this year because we want to start seeing Elizabeth having the youngsters starting to get back into.
He's also got a draft going on with the football thing and everything.
Oh, he does now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the basketball, he's got a draft. I've been there for that. With the basketball, he runs it like the NFL draft.
It is so cool, the way what he's doing. Yeah, so if you must know, I'm just a regular guy. I just want to make a little bit of an impact as much as I can.
So, Louis, you mentioned a good cultural question before we get into more questions about why don't kids play outside anymore. Do you think cell phones has anything to do with that?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, because the same cell phone that you and I always carry, can't leave home without, will educate somebody in Zimbabwe who doesn't have access to a public library like they do here in the United States. But at the same time, it's changing the culture for the youth and the young people, where they don't need to go outside to socialize now, because now they can make friends on Facebook, make friends on Instagram, but it's good in a way, but it's also bad because we're losing our humanity.
Nobody goes in the backyard and flips hamburgers anymore and says, what's going on with your neighbors?
That rarely happens. And I remember back in Sandy hit, no one had power, no one had electricity, no one had internet. People were actually going outside and talking to their neighbors. Go and checking in on their neighbors.
What a switch, huh?
It was amazing. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I did a lot of reading during that time. It was a good time. I mean, not to say that we should always be without any power, but we should learn to have balance in our life. Give kids enough time where they can maybe utilize their technology, but also time when they have to use their head. They have to use their imagination, go outside and play.
So when you raised that statement, it struck a chord with me, because you are so right. People don't interact anymore, and it's all about this. I watch my daughter, who's a freshman in college. She spends more time on the phone texting, Instagramming her friends than she will in conversation.
She's meeting with them, yeah.
So, Louis, let me ask you, you got involved in real estate, and obviously you have a passion about the city of Elizabeth, but how did you get involved in real estate, and what made you focus on that?
That's a great question. So, growing up in Elizabeth, we moved from apartment to apartment, what seemed like every end of a lease, every year. We were at every apartment. I used to live on every block you could think of. So, to me, owning a home was kind of like this far-fetched thing that was not in our cards. So, the first opportunity opportunity my parents had to buy a home back in 1995, I thought it was like a dream come true. I thought it was like, wow, the ultimate thing. And shortly after that, I turned 18, and I said, well, I'm 18 now. Maybe I can buy a home. I was so passionate about like home ownership that I wanted to get involved right away. Unfortunately, at that time, I couldn't. My immigration status wasn't right yet, so I couldn't do anything as far as financing or anything like that. But what I did do was, obviously, I played the cards I was dealt. So I went into business for myself. I opened up a barbershop, and because I was always cutting hair since I was 14 years old. So at 18 years old, I went right after high school, got into a business for myself, opened up a barbershop, did that for a few years. And then I realized one day that it wasn't challenging me anymore mentally. I wasn't getting anything out of life. I was just like a slave to my business, and I felt like I had hit a plateau. So I went on vacation. And, you know, if anyone has the opportunity to go on vacation, even if like you're having a rough time, I think it's the best thing to do, because it opens up your mind to other possibilities and the way other people live, good and bad. Like you go to a third world country, you should how grateful you are for what you have. You go to a place where there's a lot of plenty, you see what's possible for your life. So I went to Las Vegas for the first time in my life at 21 years old, and I saw people pulling up in luxury cars, spending money like there's no tomorrow, and I said, I will never be able to live this life.
Yeah, but that's Las Vegas.
It is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is that I was living my life within this small shell of my community, and I didn't know abundance. So I said, if I want abundance, I had to do something different for my life. So I had to change something. So I sold my barbershop, and right off the back, I went into real estate because I knew I was passionate about it. I had a passion since I was a kid, and there were 2 people in my life who were practicing real estate at the time, so I anchored on them. And 15, 16 years later, I sit here in front of you, I own Culture Estate, which is probably the fastest growing real estate company in New Jersey. We've grown over 3,000% since the day of inception in 2016. So I'm I'm a testament that anybody could do it. As long as you're passionate enough for what you want, you can do it.
Where's Culture Estate based out of?
We're located out of the Scotch Plains, and the majority of our business is done in Union County, and a big chunk of that is Elizabeth. So we do have a lot of presence in this city, so we always try to give back as much as we possibly can.
So how did you come up with the name? I mean, you got Remax and
of course
some of the big boys out there, but how did you come up with the name Cultural Estate?
So Culture Estate came about because at the time when I needed to come up with a name, the big buzzword in industry and in business was culture and how important culture was. And I've always been a big follower of business, and I always read, and I see that this was a buzzword. So I said, I'm going to not only implement a good culture into my company, I'm so passionate about culture and the way that you feel when you enter a company, you're around people, that I'm going to actually put it in the name. But I couldn't come up with the right sequence. So I kept thinking culture real estate, culture realtors, culture everything. But then at the end of the day, what stuck to me was something that had to be sleek and simple for people to remember. So culture, I dropped the real, and it just became Culture Estate. I drew a box around it, came up with the logo. The rest was history. And from the moment of inception, I knew I had something special.
So how many agents do you have?
Right now, we're at about 100. We have 8 staff, so we've grown
How do you pick
tremendously.
the agents? To just
I feel like God hands them to me. A lot of times, people that come to me, I swear to you, I could not have picked better people. This morning, we had a great sales training, and we had probably over 30 or 40 people there, and it just seems like there's just good people who are either brand new in the business and need someone to really mold them, or people who have been in bad situations in other companies who need to kind of hit the reset button. So we specialize in a lot of that. We breed our top producers. We don't take top producers from other companies. We make our own. So we definitely are very blessed. I don't say I've picked them. I think they've come to me. And when you set a really good environment, a really positive environment, anyone who's negative, they find their way out. Because if the majority are negative and there's that one positive person, that positive person will find their way out. So the majority of our office, we're all good people who help each other, and we're very, very, friendly. And if somebody doesn't fit that mold, they see themselves out. So that's the way
So
it is.
Louis, I mean, an agent, they basically are self-employed and they just work with you. How does that work? How does that contract work?
So being a real estate agent, you're a quasi self-employed person. I say quasi because you still work under a broker. You still work under your leader, but you are independent. You're a 1099 self-employed private contractor. So what happens is you don't get a paycheck at the end of the week or at the end of every 2 weeks. That doesn't happen. So it's a very difficult business for a lot of people because those initial 6 months to a year, it's all about how much you can put in, how much work you can put in, will dictate what money you will make. But being in real estate is like a revolving door. That first year, you push, and you can't get that door all the way around. But once you get it to go around once, you can't stop it. Money just keeps coming in from all the work you've done the year before. So it starts catching up to you. So anyone who really wants to be in real estate, just know this, it's not easy. It's going to take some time to get the momentum going. But if you really want it, you have to be passionate about it, because the passion is the only thing that's going to carry you through those days that you have no money, through those days where deals die on you. So that's
So do you work
important.
on a set percentage when you sell houses? Or is it
We do.
flexible? You do.
We do. So we give our agents a tier they can climb. So for every house they sell, they climb tiers. So we make it very easy for them to understand that you don't have to come and ask me for a raise. The raise are already there for you. And I want every one of my agents on my top tier, because that means they've earned a lot of money for themselves. So yes, we do. We have those tiers for them. And it's great.
And so, Louis, what's a typical day like at Culture Estate when you show up in the morning? What's it start at?
Well, the
7,
environment.
8 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, so I have agents that show up as early as 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, believe it or not. It's insane how early they get there. I like to hit the gym first, so my day starts at the gym. I do my meditation, I do my exercising, then I come to the office. I say hello to everyone, obviously. We have an open work environment, so we can all interact with each other. We start the day off by making a lot of prospecting calls. We make our money in the morning. We do all the money-making activities in the morning. After 12 o'clock, that's when our agents start doing more of their paperwork, their busy work, checking emails, those types of things. And then in the afternoons are delegated more for appointments. So that's how the day typically goes for agents. Monday mornings, we do our trainings. Wednesday evenings, we do a dialogue training. Saturday mornings, we do another training. So 3 trainings a week we put out for our agents. So that's our typical day and a typical week at Culture Estate.
So before we go to the break, you've painted a really rosy picture of working with 100 agents and 8 staffs.
Yeah.
But there's got to be challenges, there's got to be problems.
Yeah.
And what are some of those challenges or
You're
problems?
dealing with 100 different emotions, 100 different personalities. So you have to be very patient. I mean, very extremely patient, because just like some days you may have where you may snap on your kids like that, my agents are my kids, my staff are my kids. So there's days when they're trying my nerves, believe me. And I have to take a moment and go and leave and go for a walk and come back and go home and just have a headache and go to sleep with a headache and wake up and I'm like, okay, today's a new day, I can start over. It's hard when you deal with that many people. When you're in a people business, you have to have thick skin, you have to be a therapist, you have to be very patient. So that is the biggest, with any company, any CEO, I believe that's the biggest thing that you have to overcome, is being good with people. That is.
So with the 8 staff that you have, or there's like a vice president, what are they? Are they just clerical staff? What do they do?
So the person right under me is my office manager. You know, she handles basically all the operations, everything. If I had to like go on a vacation, she'd be the person that takes care of everything. Then we have a front desk administrator. She's basically like the hub of the office. Anything that's needed clerical-wise, they go to see her. We have Sophie, right there, who you see over there. She is our media director. No, I'm sorry, your media coordinator. We have a media director as well, who does all the filming, editing, and stuff like that. We're in the process of hiring another media person, so if anybody in the room needs to apply for a job, please let me know. And we also have a short sale person who handles all our short sales. That's a really specific type of transaction that requires a lot of massaging. We have a lead coordinator who helps assign all the leads to make sure that agents have business to work with. And then we have a project and property manager. So we have a lot of different roles that are just floating around, and specific people for specific tasks, and that's how we manage to grow. We delegate.
So Louis, we're going to run a few commercials, come back and
Sure.
talk some more
Absolutely.
about Cultural Estate.
Thank you.
Please stay with us after these messages. I'll be back with more with Louis Leiva at Cultural Estate.
Just minutes from New York City, we are the gateway to the state of New Jersey. Experience Elizabeth. It all starts here.
Welcome back to our city, where I'm joined by Mr. Louis Leiva from Cultural Estate, real estate firm in Scotch Plains with a new an exciting business model. And Louis, one of the things we were talking about during the break was what makes your company different than other real estate agencies?
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked that, because actually that's one of the things that I make all my agents memorize, is what makes you different as an individual. So as a company, one of the things that makes us different is that we're innovative. When I say that, it means that we approach everything differently. We make sure that I, as a real estate broker, as an owner of a company, my focus is actually the agents, because if I could build up my agents and teach them what they need to do to be the best agent they can for their client, I'm indirectly influencing them, but I am taking care of the people that I have in front of me. So my focus is the agent. A lot of brokers, their focus is producing. I don't produce. I don't sell or buy real estate for clients. All my business is there. So that's the number one thing that makes us very different, is that we handle things a lot differently. And as far as technology goes, we have all the technology and more than all the big companies do, because I'm a big believer in that. We also focus most of our attention on media, because media is the way of the future. The reason why we're having this, meeting today with you, thanks to all the guys that are helping out, is because media is where all the eyeballs are now. People used to watch television, people used to watch, cable, but now everyone watches social media, YouTube, and all these things. So, the beauty of it is that now anyone can compete. So the new guy who
I'm
just
still
started,
watching television.
Oh, you might.
I'm an old geezer. I'm probably still watching television.
You know what? If you're watching baseball and stuff like that, I mean, I get it. But yeah, a lot of people, they don't put their phone down. They're always watching something, because it's more interesting to see people that they know interact in their daily lives than it is to maybe watch, something on television. But it's going in that direction, what I'm saying. So what makes us different is that we're the #1 real estate agency in New Jersey for social media, which means that we have the biggest following and the most content out of any other real estate company. So that is a big game changer. When you can take a small company who's less than 3 years old and start competing with the big companies, now I'm excited about that. That's what really
So
helped.
in the first segment, you spent an awful lot of time talking about your background, and you talked about education. You also talked about training sessions that you have on Monday morning. So how did you acquire the education and training for real estate business? Did you pick it up from a mentor, or did you read books about it? Or did it just come natural to you?
Okay, so I have been in this business 16 years now, and I've learned the majority of everything I've learned on my own. And what I tell my agents is that I'm going to condense all my years of knowledge from what took me 15, 16 years to figure out down to 6 months. You're going to learn everything I know in 6 months. Anyone is capable of knowing and doing what I do, as long as they listen and they apply. So the way I've got educated is by hitting the streets, going through every possible situation you could ever think of. Things I didn't understand, I delved right in and learned it. Even if I made mistakes and fell on my face, I don't care. I would just keep going. I would also read as much as possible, self-educated. I didn't go to college. I'm self-educated. I did go to school to get my instructor's designation as a real estate instructor, but they don't really teach you anything there. The same exam you take.
What kind of school is that, Louis?
It's any real estate school that you can get licensed at. When you're a real estate agent, you go to school to be a real estate agent. Then you have to be an agent for 3 years full time to become a real estate broker. So after 3 years or 4 years of being...
And do you get licensed by the state in that process?
Yes, we do. So for me, I was one of the youngest brokers in New Jersey. I became a broker, I think, at the age of like 24, 25. Then you have to be 3 years as a broker to become a real estate instructor. So when time came for me to become an instructor, I asked myself, like, why am I going to be an instructor? I don't want to teach. I don't want to go to school and teach people. I would rather produce, because that's what, people that want to make money do. They produce, they don't teach. But I said, you know what, let me get it. One day it'll pay off for some reason or another. So I got it, never thinking that I'd be the leader of a company one day. But now that I am, it's helped me get in front of schools where I teach financial education days for kids. Obviously not for a profit, just to give back. I was a panelist for auction.com, which is the biggest auction house in the country for real estate. I've done so many speaking engagements because of it, and my company has grown because now I can stand in front of a crowd of people and say, I'm not just a guy off the street who sold a few homes. I'm an instructor licensed by the state for real estate. So whatever I'm saying to you holds more validity. So that's how you become, and you don't go to school to be an instructor. There's actually no school for that. You just have to be a broker for 3 years and then pass the same exam that you would have as a real estate agent. It's the craziest thing in the world. But a lot of people don't know that.
But these rules are ancient, right?
They are.
Real estate rules go
Yeah.
back tens decades, right?
They do.
So do you see yourself teaching at a high school or a college real estate classes or financial literacy or trade school or anything like that in the future?
Not for income. I am very passionate about giving back to kids. I love kids. Like, believe me, it's like the biggest thing in my heart is children. So I would love to continue doing that, make it a curriculum somehow, get it to be a curriculum in a school system where we can teach financial education, financial literacy, because every kid that comes out of high school, they're brainwashed to think that they have to go into college and go into debt. You don't have to go into debt. If you want to go to college and that's your destiny, there's a lot of ways to fund your way through. You know, you can also, if you don't think you're made for college, there's a lot of great alternatives. You know, you could become a loan officer, you could become a title agent, you can become an insurance agent, you could become a real estate agent. There's a lot of other alternatives these kids can take that they don't even know about, they don't even have access to. So it's a really good thing for them to know these things, know about credit, know about how to balance their accounts.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth, we have a School of Finance where some school systems are starting to catch on over the last 10 years, that financial literacy. And actually, we have a whole high school dedicated to financial literacy and financial, it's called the Finance Academy, which really works well. So books, methods of professional and personal development, what would you recommend? Okay. What would you recommend to me?
For yourself?
Yeah, I have no intention of doing it, but what would you recommend to me? If I come up to you and say, hey, Louis, I'm thinking of doing this as my next career.
Real estate?
Yeah, what would you recommend? What kind of books, what kind of professional, personal development should I engage in?
I recommend if you're looking to be in business in general, because real estate is a form of business, I believe I'm going to tell you a series of books that I read that I think are great books to read. Everyone should start off with the E-Myth. I don't know if you've ever read the E-Myth. There's a newer version called the E-Myth Revisited. It's a basic mindset of an entrepreneur, mindset of a business person. And it's a very easy read because it teaches you in the context of other people's experiences. So you're living through their experiences and you're seeing what they did wrong. Next, I would probably urge you to read Start With Why by Simon Sinek, to figure out why you want to do this. Why is it that you want to get into that industry? What's your passion behind it? That's a really great book for you guys to read. And then lastly, I just read a book not too long ago. This book is called Traction. It's by Floyd Wickman. Floyd Wickman's son, Gino Wickman. Gino Wickman wrote it. And that's a very, very good book. What it is basically, it's a blueprint of how to succeed in business. It actually gives you things that you should follow and things you should do, rituals, planning, you know, all types of business models to follow. Where the E-Myth left off, this picks up. The E-Myth teaches you this is how you think, the Traction writes it out for you. So that's a 3-part series that I think I recommend to anyone who's looking to get into business.
So Louis, you talked about earlier about giving back to kids and how you enjoy doing that. When you were a kid, why? Was there somebody special that kind of helped you along? What do you think?
Like, my parents always worked. My mom and dad, they always worked. Not that they were never there for me, but like I kind of had to figure things out on my own. You understand? And I remember like always wanting to be in sports, but I never could. So I just go and grab the basketball and go play, you know, at the field. I wanted to always be active, but nobody was ever there to watch me. So I know that as a child, like all kids want is they want to be recognized, they want help, and they want guidance. And I used to always look up to like Michael Jordan was like my idol growing up as a kid because I saw like the great stuff he used to do, and I wanted to be in the NBA. But I used to remember, you know, not picked. To be in the NBA, he had to like, you know, really, what was he? I'm sorry, he had to walk onto his basketball team
in high school.
In high school, and then through college he became a star, and all these things happened to him not because, you know, he was entitled or he felt an entitlement, but he earned his way. He wasn't, you know, the best or anything, but he worked harder than anyone else. So I want to teach that to children, your kids, that, you know, you don't have to be, your parents don't have to be like right next to you. They don't have to be holding your hand. You know, I know everyone has different circumstances, but anyone can make it as long as you want it bad enough. And I just hate seeing a lot of kids going into college and getting into a ton of debt and then coming out figuring out that wasn't what they wanted for their lives. They wanted something totally different, you know. So, I mean, there's a lot. That's why I feel.
So tell me about Project Underground Railroad.
Okay, so Project Underground Railroad is an organization that goes around the world and they save children from childhood slavery. And this thing still exists. It's a thing that actually it's very unfortunate, but you know, it hasn't gone away, and it's actually bigger now than it's ever been in history. And this organization goes around and they go with special ops, ex-Navy SEALs, ex-CIA, all these militants and people who are just in the army or just want to get back now. They go on these special operations and they uncover rings of people who traffic people or young children for any type of reason, and it's really insane what they do. But they liberate these children. So when I found out about this last year, I said I say sometimes it sounds a little cliche, but I found my purpose in life. I found that now my success through Culture Estate is going to be directly tied and connected to this organization, because there is nothing worse in the world that's going on than that, in my opinion. How someone could do that to the innocence that we have in this world. So Culture Estate is directly tied into that organization. Our profits, part of our profits go monthly to rescue a child every month. Our goal is to increase that as time goes by, and one day during the course of my life, I want to be responsible indirectly to save at least 100,000 children.
So Louis, as we wrap up the show, would you choose anything different in your path?
I'm glad you asked that, but absolutely not. My path has not been easy. My path was delayed in life, but I feel like everything that did happen happened exactly when it was supposed to happen and how it was supposed to happen, because I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm glad that I made those mistakes, because those are all lessons that I've learned in my life, and I could have paid for that in an MBA school. I couldn't have paid for that in Harvard. This is something I had to experience one-on-one, and I'm very grateful for where I am, because I'm living in the now. I'm not living yesterday, and I'm not living in the future. I'm living today. I'm grateful for today.
So what advice would you give somebody who's 22, 24, might want to do real estate?
Hey, listen, if you're going to make real estate, make that commitment and make it now, and make all the mistakes as soon as possible. Get with a mentor and get with the right company. If you don't feel right in that company from day one, make the switch before you become a little more successful and you've grown roots. So make sure of those three things. So do it soon, make a commitment, total commitment. If you need extra income, do the extra income part-time. Don't do real estate part-time and then you're full-time, because you'll never make that switch. You'll become too comfortable. Make real estate your full-time, and if you want to do something like that, cut hair at night, do that. Whatever you got to do off hours to make a couple bucks. Drive Uber. I tell everybody this is like a gift to humanity. Anyone could drive Uber now if you could get into a different business and make money on the weekends. And then get with the right mentor and get with the right company.
So Louis, if somebody wants to contact you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, the best way to contact us is to go to our website, culture.estate. There is no .com, culture.estate, or visit us on any social media platform under Culture Estate. We're the only ones out there.
And Louis, last question, what's the future of Culture Estate? We've talked about your growth, how you got into this part. Do you now maintain? Do you still look to grow? Where's your future?
The future is we're looking into franchising now, so we're looking to grow into different markets. And the more we franchise, the bigger we grow. I expect there to be opposition. Obviously, a sign of success is opposition, so I welcome it. But definitely
from opposition from other real estate
companies, obviously, or maybe even maybe somebody will want to buy us out. But I'm not looking for that. I want to definitely see this thing, see my baby through to fruition. And then one day, who knows, maybe publicly traded. Who knows?
Well, I want to wish you luck, and want to wish you goodwill in your future, in the career. And
thank you.
I look forward to keeping in touch, and thank you for this interview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I
want to thank Mr. Louis Leiva and the Cultural Estate for joining me on Our City. We hope to see you next week on another edition of Our City.